Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivy Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're at the very top of the Hollywood-Knolls in the Hollywood Hills, where we're going to be discussing three very important issues with three guest speakers. The first one is going to be myself, and I'm going to be talking about plant reproduction, and more specifically, plant sex. The second guest speaker is going to be Brad Fickus, who's got 30 years in the plant business, and he's going to be talking about citrus care. And our last speaker is going to be Steve List, and he's a teacher at the Sylmar Charter High School Department of Agriculture, and there he has a program where he educates the students on plant care at a very young age, starting in high school, and creates these plants to benefit the homeless in Los Angeles and other people in need. So we've got an excellent program, and he's going to be talking specifically about vegetable and plant care just in general. So we're going to be covering all of those topics. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this. And check out some of these views behind me. We got a little peek of view of the Hollywood sign. A little further to the right, you'll see the observatory, and then further down, you'll see downtown Los Angeles, just right over the Hollywood Lake. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this series by Ivy Organics. Thank you. Firstly, welcome everybody. This is phenomenal, and luckily we've got this beautiful weather and just such an amazing group. That's what's most important. I want to first start off by thanking John and Jerry for hosting us and sharing their magnificent property with all of us to have our Spring 2017 Garden Club meeting. Thank you, Jerry, for the food. And thank you, Chris, for the pastries. I think Tom Matera brought some pastries as well. Thank you for that as well. I also want to thank all of the board members. I mean, for one, we've got a Garden Club committee. If you want to put your hand up for the Garden Club committee, there's 5 of us, Brad, John, Jerry, Deborah, and Sandy Gitmid. And then the rest of the Hollywood-Knolls board members, I know there's twice as many hands in there. If you guys want to put your hands up real quick. Those are your board members. I know there's more. So anyways, all of your volunteers, I believe there's 17 of them, volunteer many hours every single month, making this community, which is beautiful, even more beautiful. And, we appreciate your continued, efforts. I want to thank a few guests personally that are here that I've invited, one being Sheila Iranian. I don't know where she is. Is she here? There she is. She's hiding behind her big hat. I didn't even say hello to you yet. But she's the president of the Lake Hollywood Estates. Another dear friend, Anita Sokolsky, I want to also thank, that came from Laurel Canyon, and she's involved with the Hillside Federation among other organizations, and she's helped to preserve many acres of natural lands, and is a pioneer in helping us. And also my Aunt Violet and Uncle Chuck, thanks for coming from Woodland Hills. So before we start, and all of you know this, the Garden Club is so much more than talking about plants. It's more about neighbors, meeting neighbors, and creating a network if you need a network, and if you don't, it's unnecessary as well. If you're just here for the plants, you're going to learn the plants. But for me, the value has been, and it's taken me so many different places with all of you that are here. And most recently, through my relationship with Sheila, which, we created over many years, I got to meet Anita, and Anita introduced me just yesterday to the ambassador for the Los Angeles River, and they're working on preserving hundreds of acres all the way from the beginning of the watershed down to Long Beach, and trying to design things that are native, and restoring trees and creating habitats and doing all these amazing things, improving water quality. And it's just like, the potential is limitless. If you want to get involved, reach out to your board members. Let us know what you're interested in. We'll try to do more of that. Today we have 3 amazing guest speakers. I don't want to say 3. I can't call myself amazing, but 2 amazing guest speakers. The first one, Steve List. He's a teacher at the Silmar Charter High School Agricultural Center, and I've met him earlier this year for the first time, but I was invited last Saturday to an event that he hosted, and apparently it's one of many, but I've never seen anybody more generous than Steve List, having given thousands of dollars worth of plants and trees and fertilizers and dirt, so on and so forth, supporting the community, helping homelessness. They've got an agricultural center within the school where they're teaching the high school students to make food that then goes into these properties and just help support. I don't want to say just Silmar, Los Angeles greater, I'm sure, and beyond. But he'll explain more about his program so we can get more informed about the good work that he's doing in our community. And then we also have Brad Fickus, who's an avid gardener with over 30 years experience. And he's going to be discussing his topics. And what I always do, but in the interest of time, I got to cut it for the first time ever. Maybe I'll just call names out as I go around. And if there's something more you want to say it. And I know Jerry's got something to say, but the introductions are so important. I'm hoping you guys spend a few extra minutes at the end also and get to better know your neighbors. But we cover everybody? Yes?
Who are you?
Oh. So I introduced the exceptional speakers that introduced myself. I'm introducing myself as Charles, Director of Horticulture and Education for Ivy Organics. I've got a product which I'm not talking about today, but I do have a YouTube channel out there with over, I think today it'll go over 8,000 subscribers. We have about 4,000 to 6,000 people per day watching and learning gardening lessons and watching how these products can be used to benefit your plants. And our products are pretty much, just simply stated, a product to help replace the latex white paint function in the garden. Most people would use latex white paint to protect their plants from sun burn, but our product is an organic alternative to the use of latex white paint, and also has 7 natural garden oils to then repel insects and rodents from girdling your trees or entering pruned areas and potentially hollowing out plants. So I'm working with a couple projects and hopefully going to get our products into use that way. So that's my 2 minutes on that. Just to let you know, the topics that we're going to be discussing as email to all of you are the following. Vegetables and fruit care will be covered by Steve List, and we're going to give him the last majority of time because we really want to hear what he has to say. Citrus trees will be covered by Brad Fickus, and then I'm going to be discussing, and my time starts now, but I'm only granted 15 minutes today. I've never been cut so short. To facilitate that, I've prepared just this one-page handout. And so my topic again is propagating plants and genetics. And when you talk about propagation, you can't talk about propagation without talking about sex. Plants also have a sex life as well, and it is spring, and they are being sexy. The flowers are blooming. The color that they have is specific to insects that are looking for that color. They're emitting scents that are specific to insects to draw them in. They're offering nectar to the hummingbirds and bees and other insects. My avocado flowers as well, I noticed, were being pollinated mostly by flies, believe it or not. So the flies are going in there and getting whatever juices out of there and pollinating them. All the flowers are doing whatever it takes to, I don't want to say attract a mate. Yesterday in the car, I was with my wife and I'm like, why do I have red socks in my drawer? I never wear red socks. But today, I put them on. She's like, you look cute. So the things we do for the other, but when it comes to the flower, the flower is not looking to attract the opposite sex. What it's trying to attract is a pollinator, something that's going to get, and we're going to talk about the anatomy of a flower, but the flower within the angiosperms, which is the majority of the plants, there's over 200,000 species of angiosperms. And for example, with your citrus trees, which we're going to look at some flower sample in just a second, the pollen are on the stamens which surround the center pistil, which leads down to the ovary. So the male parts are surrounding the female part. And that pollen just needs to get from a millimeter away into that pistil to work its way down into the ovary of the fruit, which then creates the fruit. But to accomplish that, even though it's a millimeter away, it needs that bee to brush that pollen from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower, and then that creates pollination. The concept of pollination, I don't know if anybody ever heard of Mendel or the Mendel peas. Do you guys remember that from elementary school, high school? So what he did was he took the white peas, the white flowering peas with the red peas, and when you cross them it makes pink peas, but sometimes you put two pink peas together and it makes one red pea, but mostly white peas. Or that's all about dominance and which characteristics dominate among the plants. And that's leading to something in just a minute here. So I want to give him credit for starting this thought process about genetics within plants. That was in 1865, followed by Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri, who in 1902 came up with the chromosome theory. And that involves sex cells. And I remember, I'm sharing a lot of personal background about myself, but I remember when I was 3rd grade or 4th grade telling my dad about sex cells. And I think I was talking about a chicken egg being, the female sex cell. And my dad's like, why are we talking about sex? And I'm like, it's not sex. And I'm like, it's not one of those talks. It's just the egg is the female, and it takes a male part, and together it creates fertilization, and then you get a chicken. The same concept applies with the flower. What I want to pass out here are these that I prepared this morning. So in this bag, I prepared a set of what's called perfect flowers. A perfect flower is defined as a flower that has both male and female parts. And I went around my garden and I picked flowers off, which I know most of you guys would never attempt to do because you're like, there goes your fruit. But there's so many of them. The plant's not going to hold on to all of them. So I spared 6 or 7. But in here there's grapefruit, orange, and lemon flowers. And I said, smell it, and if you want, you can even touch the pistil, which is the beginning part of what leads to the ovary at the very bottom. The pistil is purposefully sticky to get the pollen as the bees brushing from the pollen onto the pistil, and that creates the fertilization. But this here is my perfect flowers, and it's labeled. Then I found this, which is also, I don't want to say quite common, but they are discoverable. If you're looking at 100 flowers, you might find 5 that are male flowers. It only has male parts. There's no ovary in this particular flower. I'll keep passing them, I guess, this way. And then the last one I have, and this was hard to find, is an all-female flower. So it blooms, it's got the petals and everything, but it's just an ovary, no pollen. So the only way this is going to get fertilized is from a male. Some of those male parts have to come off another flower and work its way in.
Are all of your 3 grapefruit flowers from the same tree?
No. So the first bag is grapefruit, orange, and lemon, and it's from 3 different trees. And the lemon flower is identified by a little purplish color on the back side of the flower. I don't want to take questions only because I've got limited minutes and I got to just spit out as much information as I can, but I'll take questions. I'll be the last one here. I got to just make sure I save as much time for our last speaker. The next topic is we go down here. So we talked about flower anatomy. You've got on your sheet, it includes stamen and pollen. It creates the male parts, and then the pistil and the ovary is the female parts. And now we saw those examples. I brought the rose behind me as an example as well. And the petals are obviously there for the color to quickly, get those insects from far above to see the flower or putting it here in the light. But it's within it, and I know this looks sad, but the rest of them are for you. But again, you're going to notice within the flower, all of those parts at the top are the male stamens with the pollen. And then you're going to notice towards the center are going to be the pistils that lead to the ovary, which is right behind those petals at the bottom. I'll pass this around. I'm going to remove the thorns so this doesn't hurt anybody. But that's that. And for anybody that wants a rose before you go home, the roses are here for you. The seed. What I have here, so we just talked about pollination, and I really wanted to get that out. How are we doing on time? I think I'm 5 minutes in, or am I further?
Let's see, you have 8 minutes left.
Good. I've never done it this fast. But we're doing this again, like I said, to save the most time at the end. So we talked about pollination. The Mendel peas at the beginning. Red peas, white peas make pink peas. What's happening is the humans, for example, how many chromosomes do we have? Does anybody remember that from biology class? Guesses? 46. She's closest to high school, that's why she knows that. But 46, it's 2 sets of 23 is what people have. When it comes to corn, for example, they have 2 sets of 10. Avocado, two sets of 12. Roses could be 2, 3, or 4 sets of 7. And the banana, it's the wild ones. And a banana typically in the wild would be seedy. The whole thing would be just full of these large seeds. That would be 2 sets of 11, so 22 chromosomes. The edible variety has 3 sets, and it's because of that it doesn't create the seeds. It's a seedless, like your Chiquita bananas, or also known as Cavendish. They're seedless. The seeds are in there, but they just never develop because of that 3rd set of chromosomes, which lead to that effect, which we then propagate and multiply the plants that way. When it comes to the genetics, what I want to show you, it's on your list, is monoembryonic versus polyembryonic. And when it comes to blending genetics, again, talking about those peas, we're taking traits from one plant and another plant and mixing it. If you take an avocado, and I get this question a lot from growers, if I take my Haas avocado and plant the avocado seed, do I have a Haas avocado? No. And the answer is no, because you took the genetics from a male part, a female part, and you created something random, just like all of us as children from our parents and our kids that are different than us. None of us are the same. None of us in the whole world are the same. Plants are similar. But there's one exception, and that's called polyembryonic seeds. And a polyembryonic seed, and there's, I don't know if I wrote this on your list, but it's on mine. But the polyembryonic fruits include, polyembryotics are Valencia oranges, Lisbon lemons, the Thompson or marsh grapefruit, Murcott, Akara mandarin, and another example is this. So there's 2 types of mango, but it's also, I've got the Lisbon lemon. If you take the seeds out of this, you'll have genetically identical fruit to the Lisbon lemon. So you can actually plant the seed and have another successful, heavy-bearing, delicious, identical fruit if you plant the seeds of the Lisbon lemon. I don't want to go into the total science of that. If that intrigues you, just ask me more questions at the end. I just thought that these are fascinating ideas, but there are exceptions where you can plant the seed and still have a genetically identical plant to the parent plant. The drawback to this process, and that leads to my last topic, is planting even an identical seed from a polyembryonic plant, such as that Lisbon lemon, will take you 7 to 10 plus years till that wood finally gets mature enough that it'll then flower and support fruit. To skip all that, you do something called asexual propagation. We spent the majority of my minutes talking about sexual propagation of plants, but for asexual propagation, one method is doing grafting, which I don't know if some of you have heard of grafting, but it's a process where you're trying to basically align the cambium tissues, which are right underneath the bark, with one another. They both heal, and I did an example of a grafting project, which again, it's not going to work because it's broken, but you can kind of see the concept behind it. I use fishing twine so you can see it, but you then usually wrap it with grafting tape to retain the moisture. But I want you to see what grafting looks like. This here is in that bag, and I brought this as a sample tree so you can see where the graft is and what that looks like. So I'm going to pass both of these to you. So grafting is one way to take something that is just absolutely delicious. For example, we want that lemon that's in the back that provides John and Jerry with endless lemon fruit. And what you'll do is you'll just take a piece of that and graft it onto another citrus variety, and you'll have the same successful lemon tree grown in your backyard. Another way would be by cutting. Citrus work well by cutting, as well as figs and grapes. And there's a whole list of things that work well by cutting. And in this bag, I gave examples of what a good cutting would look like, which means you'd leave about a 1/4 inch above the node and a 1/4 inch below the node, in addition to scarring the below the node that's going to go underground to increase surface area for water absorption, in addition to increased area for root development. And this bag will show you some examples of good cuttings off of a grape and fig. And this one here is an example of bad cuttings, meaning that the nodes are too far away from the areas that I cut. And you'll see that in here as well. That concludes my presentation.
2 minutes left.
With 2 minutes left, which we'll send this way. I know that Jerry had something to share with you guys real quick while I pass the mic over.
I'm going to be real quick. First of all, thank you, Charles, for having me.
So if you've enjoyed this educational moment by Ivory Organics, be sure to like it, and most importantly, by subscribing below, you'll be connected to all of these other educational videos. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening.